It means we are not going to change the Quran. We are not going to change the Ahadith. We are going to change the Muslim minds. So this is the difference between what was said and what I keep on repeating. I'm not advocating reforming Islam. I'm advocating reforming the Muslim minds. Our understanding, our way of reading. The problem is not the text, the problem is the readers. The problem is not the prophetic traditions, the problem is the way we implement them. It's our understanding that we need an intellectual revolution, a radical reform in our understanding, the methodology and the way we have to deal with the text. This is what I'm advocating. So some people, the problem that I have with many Muslims is that the only thing that they know from my thoughts is coming from YouTube and internet. One quotation say, oh, this is what he's saying. I'm sorry, if you are serious and you come to critical thinking, the first thing you have to do is to read books and not to listen to one lecture here and 3 minutes there. So that's the problem of, we are not serious with knowledge. We want to reform the world. We don't take 3 minutes. We take 3 minutes to understand how it's going to work. So you better reform your mind by being serious with your intelligence, by respecting your mind and giving food for thought through books, taking time, dialogue, critical thinking. This is what is needed today. And the problem that we have in the Muslim majority countries, within the Muslim community, there is something which is deep in us now that needs to be shaken, is this intellectual laziness. What I'm trying to expose here and trying to translate in the books is really a way of understanding Islam. So I can understand that some people from the mystical trend, and I have lots of respect, the Sufi trend for me, it's the center of Islam. All the people who are saying, when I put the Sufis within my categorization in Western Muslims, I have some Salafi literally saying, how come you put Sufi within? Because they are outside. Which for me is wrong. They are within. Depending which kind of Sufism, by the way. There is Sufism and Sufism. This new look Sufism is no rules, nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the genuine, authentic Sufi tradition. The people who are not only following the 5 pillars of Islam, but they are adding to the 5 pillars. They fast more, they pray more, and they go towards a spiritual path. Not people who are just thinking, oh, I'm with God 24 hours, 7/7, no problem, everything is good. Who think about themselves that they are even better than the Prophet ﷺ, who was praying 5 times a day, praying during the night, not drinking. No, they can do it on their own. This is not the Sufism I'm talking about. I'm talking about the very deep tradition that we have. So someone who can come and say, you know what, I don't want to be involved in the world. I need to be on my own and try to reform myself, but this is what I want to do with my own. I would say, accept this. This is your choice. The only thing that I understood from the Prophet ﷺ, that he was praying during the night to change the world during the day. Now, if you can't, if this is your choice, no one is going to condemn. And no one should condemn this choice. We should accept our diversity in our understanding. But from where I am, I want you to understand that my understanding here of Islam, and my way of talking about reform is based on a very, not a special, something that I think is the mainstream way of understanding Islam, is that the Muslims are getting and following a message that is asking them to change the world for the better. Not alone, with other traditions. We should be the best in the way we follow what is good and resist what is bad, but we are not the only advocate of good. So this monopoly on the good is in our mind, is not in the text. The text is telling us what I said before, that we have no one community, there are many communities, and we should do the best. And this is where we have وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. You are the community of the middle path in order for you to bear witness to your message before people, and for the Prophet to bear witness before God. to who you are and what you are doing. So the problem here is to understand to be witness. What does it mean to be witness? To be witness is to know the meaning of your message, what is good and what is bad, and to try to translate this into reality. Be witnesses of your message. How? Not by talking about it and saying, I am a Muslim, I am the best. No, to say I'm a Muslim, I am the best is already not being the best by saying that you are one. The best should be seen in the way you act and behave. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Be witness through your behavior. So this is a condition of our mission as Muslims in the world. This is what we are here to reform ourselves and to reform the world for the better. And you have it, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. You are the best community set among people. And some people stop here and say we are the best. And they don't understand that what follows in the hadith, the verse, is a condition. Inasmuch as you promote what is good and you resist what is bad. It's the condition. The condition is the only way for you to be the best is to command what is good and to resist what is bad. And this is the visible dimension of who you are, and the secret dimension that is known by God is وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, and you believe in God. So the visibility of your behavior and the essence of your being and action in the world. So this is an understanding of Islam for me which is important. We are here to be active in the world and to reform the world. So it's an understanding of Islam which is spiritual in depth. It's something which has to do with profound spirituality, being with God and reforming ourselves, and being with God and with humanity to change the world for the better. Be stand up before God as witness of justice. This is what we have to do. And the Prophet ﷺ saying, Ifshu salam, be agents of peace. Everything that we are saying, Bismis salam wa ila salam. So it's in the name of salam, which is one of the names of God, and ila salam, this is one of our objectives. We are agents of peace. But we know that peace has conditions. The first one is justice. No justice, no peace. And education. If you are not educated, no peace. No peace without education. And no, if we are not giving the people the basic rights, no peace. This is the way it is. So if we are serious about peace, this is where we have to understand the meaning of our presence. So once again, I want this to be clear, is an understanding of Islam. And I may accept that some Muslims, they see it from a different angle, the mainstream understanding, what we have in all the traditions, Sunni, Shi'i, all the schools within the Sunni is, this is your mission. This is what you have to do. This is the people you have to be. And if you are going in few days to fast, is to control yourself in order to master your desires, you master yourself in order to be close to the poor, to work for solidarity, and to be agents of justice and peace. If you don't get this, if just not to drink, not to eat, and to eat more and the double during the night, just do it. At the end, the Prophet ﷺ said, some people among you, the only thing that they are going to get out of Ramadan is preventing themselves from drinking and eating. That's it. And say, have you fast? Yes. Great. Did you get the meaning of it? So the rituals without meaning are just useful for the appearance, not useful for the essence of what we are talking about. Now, having put this in a clear way, and I think that it's important to start with these very few points that I wanted to mention just to go ahead with this. When we talk about reform, and this is rethinking the concept of reform, is something that I realized when I was telling you that I was using the same term and the same concept, but not with the same meaning. Let me give you something which is the way I was dealing with scholars, and they were min al-mujaddidin, so renewing our understanding. And mainly they were working on the fiqh in Islamic law and jurisprudence. Islamic law and jurisprudence, and coming with new fatwa, legal opinions, new understanding of old issues, and coming with new fatwa, helping us to face new challenges. And this is truly reform. It's good. It's necessary. It's a step that you have, for example, things that are coming to you, new economic questions, new medical questions, new cultural realities, new societies, Muslims living in the West now that was not exactly the historical experience in secular society, different secular societies. France is not Britain, Britain is not the United States of America. You have to deal with this, and you need to get an answer. So the scholars were dealing with all these medical sciences and coming from the fiqh with new legal opinion and trying to catch up, trying to come with, this is new, let us come with a new legal opinion. So someone who is working in the field of law, we all know that jurisprudence by definition is always to try to catch up with the reality. You get that? The reality is changing, and we try to catch up. We try to adapt to the reality, because the society is asking us questions, the sciences are coming with new discoveries, and then we need to catch up. And law and jurisprudence in all the philosophies of law are always catching up by definition. And we need this. Is it the only thing that we have to do when it comes to our understanding of Islam? Now, so this is an adaptational reform. A reform that is adapting to the changes of the world, and we all need this. But is it the only thing that we need? Let me now come to another type of reform, and we will get this understanding not from the outward world, but the inward world. When the Prophet ﷺ in the Quran is telling us and asking us to change and to reform ourselves. When, for example, you have the first revelations coming to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and he said he is asked to read, Iqra. And he said, I can't read. Iqra, I can't read. Iqra, I can't read. Bismi Rabbik. Read in the name of your educator, your supreme educator. Now you can read with this power of God. What is happening in him is a complete conversion of his heart. God is telling him with this call, now you have to change your vision of the world. And the vision of the world means that you have to reform your heart in order to see in the world and the universe not only the sun, not only the moon, not only the trees, but the signs of my presence. It's a conversion. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, when he's talking to God, said, Ya muqallib al-qulub, who are changing the side of the hearts. You are converting. It's the true conversion. So, in spiritual terms, to reform yourself is not to adapt. To reform yourself is to transform yourself. It's to come in a state where you look at the elements and then you see the moon, you see the sun, and you listen to Ar-Rahman saying, Ar-Rahman, علم القرآن خلق الإنسان, and then you carry on, الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان, saying the moon and the sun are following very precise cycles, but the tree and the stars are prostrating. This you cannot see it with your eyes, you see it with your heart. Meaning that the spiritual reform is a transformation of you. And this is why you see the Prophet ﷺ coming with principles of ethics. Do this, do that, avoid hatred, avoid being anger, avoid all these things. And to every one of us, in order to implement these principles, we should know ourselves. We need two knowledges. We need the knowledge of the principles and the knowledge of the self if we want to transform ourselves. And the only people, the only one who know who you are is God and yourself. You come with a principle which is be generous. And some of you, to be generous is not a jihad. They are generous by nature. But some others are very quick to be bad in temper or angry. So they can be very quickly angry. For them to be calm is a jihad. You know the principle is the same. The principles are the same for all, but they are not going to be implemented the same for each. Why? Because we all have to know ourselves to know how we are going to transform ourselves. In fact, reform in spiritual term, Islah al-Nafs is a transformative reality, not an adaptation. It's not accept yourself the way you are, is transform yourself to be better than you are. Isn't it this that we are asked to do? Is to change ourselves to be better. So with the knowledge of the principles, the knowledge of the self, we go to a step further and we transform ourselves into something which is beyond that. Now you come to what I was saying. If we are obsessed with law, we end up trying to catch up with reality. If we understand the deep meaning of spiritual reform, this is not what we are asked to do. We are asked to change the world for the better. And the only way to change the world for the better, as we have to change ourselves for the better, is not only to know the principles, is to know the world. If you don't know the world, you are going just to catch up with the world. You don't have a vision for the world. You don't know what are the secrets, what are the complexities in the world to be able to go beyond catching up. So this obsession in the Muslim contemporary minds with fiqh, and only fiqh, is putting us in intellectual disposition that we are trying to catch up. And it nurtures an inferiority complex. We are not here to change the world, but to prove to the West that we can do as good as them. You want an example? You have your economy, we have our economy. You have your Western economy, we have an Islamic economy. We have schools, we have Islamic schools. You have psychology, we have Islamic psychology. You have songs, we have Islamic songs. So our inferiority complex is just shown through the fact that we are adding word Islamic everywhere. And we are happy with it. We are not changing, we are adapting. And we want a halal alternative. So you have McDonald's, we have halal McDonald's. Welcome to the world. And this is it. The fact is that coming through this angle, we don't change. We are not a contribution. We are imitators of the powerful. And we show that we are protecting our Islamic reference by putting Islamic and saying, here we are. So we have two intellectual modes here. It's being on the defensive and trying to adapt. I'm sorry, this is not what I understood from my religion. My religion is not to be on the defensive first, and second is not to adapt. Is to work with all the good will, all the forces of good in the world to change this world for the better. And doesn't mean only with Muslims. Because I can tell you that many Muslims are working against what is good. And many people of other faiths are working for what is good. So I have to know and to remember what the Prophet ﷺ said, الْحِكْمَةُ ضَلَّةُ الْمُسْلِمِ فَهُوَ أَوْلَى بِهَا أَيْنَمَا وَجَدَهَا. The wisdom is the lost property of the Muslim. He will take it from wherever he finds or she finds it. We take from the good from everywhere. A good mind is not exclusively a Muslim mind, or an Arab mind, or a Malaysian mind. Wherever we find things which are good, we take. So we understand here in this that we should not repeat and be obsessed with law and legislation. We need to have a philosophy of law. We need to have a vision beyond law. And this is only possible if we add the knowledge of legislation with the knowledge of contemporary sciences and the world, the universe. and not to come to say the only sources of Islamic law are our texts. No, the world, the universe is also a source. And in the book that was referred to, Radical Reform, I'm explaining this and trying to show how much the knowledge of the universe is part of the source of our vision and our philosophy of law, and not only the implementation of law. And this is mirroring what I was saying on the spiritual side. It's how we have to think about, during Ramadan, inshallah, we'll go to the website, tariqramadan.com, every day, because, and read a bit. But this is good. This is chronicle 5 minutes. It won't take time. But what I'm trying to do is to think about the qualities of the Prophet ﷺ, and to see how these qualities are sent to us to help us to transform ourselves in the way he was gentle, in the way he was full of psychology. And these are things that we have to think about. To do what? To take from his example and to transform ourselves. So this is the mirror of what we have to do now with all the other fields within which we are involved. In medicine, in society, in solidarity, in media, in all the fields that were mentioned in the previous talks. This is what we need to understand in our way of being involved in our contemporary world and the challenges. So what I was discovering, dealing with fiqh, with ulama, and looking at what is produced in many councils and people that I respect very much, as a first step, they were very often, because they have to catch up, there are two words that you will find everywhere in the contemporary fatwa. The first word is al-haja. Because the word is complex, because we are facing a very complex word, we are in need of some specific fatwa, so we are explaining the fatwa through al-haja. We are in need, we do this, we catch up. Or al-darura. Al-darura is the imperative of the world. So we have legal opinions that are produced not exactly as the reference should be, but because the world is imposing onto us its reality. So we go from haja to darura, and with no vision, just trying to protect ourselves. So the protective mode, and always referring to we can't do anything else. It's not in our power. It's imposed onto us. And I think that this psychological disposition is the main problem. We are not going to go anywhere reforming our understanding if we keep on repeating this. And us, many of you here who are ordinary Muslims, not scholars, they sit down and what do? Is say, look at these scholars, out of touch. They are dreaming in another world. So we are very quick to criticize our leaders, not very quick to reassess our positions as followers. Because there is a great deal of giving up among the Muslims now. Criticizing the people should come with the answers, but not doing the job as Muslims dealing in different fields. For example, we have medical doctors, we have journalists, we have psychologists, we have women who are involved in social dynamics and working for the rights and empowerment of women. They are not in touch with the scholars. They are not in touch with this reality. So we have two worlds, in fact. We claim that it's the same, but in fact, in reality, we are not working together. The scholars are giving fatwa that the great majority of the Muslims don't know about. They ignore them, and then they, on their side, they do what they want to do, and they claim that the scholars are not doing the job. So we are between the ignorance of the majority and the out of touch of the scholars. This is where we are. So if we want to reconcile these two dimensions, it's very important to reconcile first the two knowledges, the knowledge of the text and the knowledge of the context. And this is, when I was talking to some of the scholars, say, well, yes, we are doing this. They say, no, it's a radical reform as to the methodology, how we bring them together. It's not just give me a report on the last medical discovery, I will give you a fatwa. This is not the way it is. This is not going to work. Or give me a fatwa on a new financial, transactions, and I will tell you what is halal and what is haram. And sometimes what we are doing in this business, we change the words. and we keep the procedures. But we know it's going to happen. The Prophet ﷺ told us, one day you will change the names and make what is haram halal. Just to change the names. And I think that this is where first we have to go further than this in our discussion. So just to go quickly on the proposal here is really to come to something which is these two knowledge. How do we need to work on this? First is to reassess the philosophy of law that we have and to be able to say, and this is what I am advocating in the book, that we have two main sources of our Islamic law and jurisprudence, the text and the context. And when we need to deal with the text and the context, there is always something that is now coming back to us and that we neglected for centuries, is all what was produced by the schools of maqasid. The schools of maqasid are telling us, never forget when you read the texts, the objectives. And the law should be understood in the light of the objectives. Don't come with the law, because some of our brothers, the literalist, is Salafi. By the way, be careful with the concept of Salafi. Now it's a media concept, is less an academic concept. So when we listen to Salafi, it's a dirty word. Salafi is one of the best words that we have, saying that we are following in the footsteps of the Prophet. It's a noble term. It's even like jihad. The people who are transforming jihad in holy war, and some Muslims are even avoiding talking about jihad. In some books in our schools, don't talk about jihad. Not only I'm going to talk, but I'm going to explain what jihad is. We have to be assertive with our terminology. You know, the colonizers, what they were doing with the people they were colonizing, they were working on their textbooks to change terminology, to remove some words. Jihad is not the way towards war, it's the way towards peace. Jihad is for peace, is not for war. We want to avoid, we are agents of peace and not of war. So if someone is attacking us, we want to resist in the name of dignity for peace, not to let the exploiters and the people who are attacking and killing people. We are not here to let the people kill others. We have to stand up and to say the dignity of humanity is to stand up in front of the oppressors. And this is why this is something that needs courage. So needs courage, but with a vision that we want peace, not a vision that we celebrate war. So this is about jihad. And the other word which is important is salaf. Salaf is to follow the first 3 generations of Muslims after the Prophet ﷺ. It's a noble term, but we have now people who are monopolizing the word by saying we are the only salaf. We have even people saying نحن الفرقة الناجية. So we are the saved group. Thank you for us. So if you are not within, you are out. So this kind of attitude, it's not acceptable. It's a salaf. We have different types of salaf. We have people who are very literalist, like Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, and you have people who were thinking about the objectives. But they were salaf. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhuma, he was thinking about the objectives. And it's very important to think about the law, not by literally implementing the law, but to think about the objective. What do we want to achieve? So this is exactly what Umar ibn al-Khattab did with al-hudud. He stopped implementing the hudud because he was dealing with a context that was not gathering the conditions. He said, stop. So you don't come with the law to show that you're a good Muslim, you implement them. You know, in Nigeria, when I was talking with some of the people, they say, we are going to implement Sharia. Okay, what are you going to do? Hudud. What's that? You start punishing instead of starting to educate the people, promote justice, well-being. This is a way of looking at law in a very narrow understanding. Law without objectives, law without meaning, just a ritual, like you pray without knowing what you are doing. But it's just to show that we are Muslims, and as Muslims we should show how tough we are. When the Prophet ﷺ was saying, يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا, ease the path, don't make it difficult. Some they want to show, because it's an inferiority, it's psychological, is because it's everything, it's about permission, let us come and show that Islam is about prohibition. And you have again the Al-Qaeda saying, الْأَصْلُ فِي الْأَشْيَاءِ الْإِبَاحَةِ, the principle in everything is permission, is not prohibition. So if you are not confident with your religion, you end up with this very narrow-minded attitude that is implementing things in the harsh way. So the Salaf, some of the Salaf literalists are coming with implementing only the law and not understanding the objective. Madrasat al-Maqasid is telling us, and this is what we are working on, and I'm talking about it in the book, is that we have to think about the objectives. But not only we have to think about the objective, we have to be more specific. We have a very old school, Shatibi, who was following Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, who was following al-Juwayni. They came with 5 main principles. Al-Qarafi added al-Karam al-Ird, dignity, what we call dignity. So protecting a deen, protecting the religion, protecting the personal integrity, protecting your intellect, protecting your progeny, protecting your goods. All these are the main principles. But now you come in our world, and if you understand the state of affairs in our world, these 5 principles are too wide to help us to understand the specificities of the objectives in every field of sciences. So we need to produce something which is more specific. But this is where we have creative. Even with people who are so creative like Shatibi, we end up repeating what they said, as if we show that we are novator by repeating the thoughts of people who were very creative in their science. Where is our creativity? We deal with our tradition the way we deal with architecture. We want to show the greatness of our past, go to Andalusia. You want to deal with the greatness of our thought, go back to a Shatibi. What we are doing now is repeating. It's not going to work like this. And don't tell me, if you look at the state of affairs of Muslims around the world, we are equipped. We have the minds. We have the number. We have the people being trained everywhere. How come are we so shy intellectually and so invisible in anything which has to do with creativity and scientific and intellectual and religious contribution? How come? There is something which is upstream from the problem, is the psychology and our understanding. So just to go to my conclusion from all this, so it's what I was saying is that to add to not only focus on the law but the knowledge of the world, and then to come with the understanding of the objectives and to radically change our approach. And it means here that there are 3 things that we have to do. The first one is, what I am advocating in the book, is to shift the center of gravity of authority in Islam. You may say that it's not true, but if you look at the state of affairs now, we have a crisis of authority in Islam. Who is talking, who is speaking for Muslims today? Why are you following these scholars and not these scholars? Who is the leader? We don't want a pope, because we understood that this is why we have a creative diversity. We want this diversity. But diversity doesn't mean scattered opinions and chaotic reality. It means to manage this diversity in order to get something which is a kind of harmony between our scholars and thoughts. So here we have to challenge this authority. And you know, in the councils that we have for fatwa, legal opinions, we have the ulama. The word ulama is not used in the Quran only for scholars of the text. It's used for all the scholars. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. The people who have this God consciousness are the people who are full of knowledge, but not the knowledge of the text. In the verse, just before and just after, it referred to the world. Al-alim is the one who is full of knowledge, men and women, not only of the text, but we have monopolized the concept of ulama only for the people. We have created a kind of hierarchy. So you have al-alim, and then you have the specialists, al-khubara, the people who know something about Islamic science, about medical science, but it's not the same. This is knowledge and this is instruments. Well, that's not true. If you come and you want to change the world, you have first to go to the shift and to put them together and to say, I'm sorry. When it comes to life, when it comes to medical sciences, you better listen to the specialists. You better listen to al-alim. And it was done. You know that for over the last 40 years, it's the only field where the Muslims have done well is to put scholars of the text with medical doctors. and they are at the forefront of all the new challenges, talking about euthanasia, cloning, bioethics. It's huge what they have done. Why? Because they accepted to sit together and to share knowledge. Not in an adaptive way, but to look at the complexity and to look beyond, because the scholars, the medical doctors, are the only able to come with a vision, not to let the ulama and nusus, the scholars of the text, adapt to the situation, but have a vision beyond the situation. And we need to do the same in economy. We need to do the same in all the fields that we are talking about, and this is where we need to integrate knowledge. In the center that we have in Qatar, the Center for Islamic Legislation and Ethics, that we have started last year, what we want to do is exactly this. It's a new methodology. And I know that some scholars, ulama of the text, they were not happy. So what do we want to do with this? I say, I want to challenge you in a positive way. But what I'm also saying to all the scholars of the context, the medical doctors, the economists, the psychologists, the educationists, the women, men, it's also to come and say, you have your share in the process. You should understand that if it's not working, it's also because you are passive. You are not doing the job. So it's not to criticize the authority of the scholars. It's also to criticize the passivity of the followers, the passivity of people who are at the highest level. I am meeting people that are at the highest level of management, the highest level of psychology, the highest level of medical sciences, and you ask them, what about ethics? What are you doing about ethics? Oh, it's not of my business. It's not my field. Of course it is. Of course you will need your knowledge. So don't blame the scholars not doing the job when you are passive and completely isolating yourself from the field of ethics. Islamic applied ethics is a very important business. This is where we come and we don't want to adapt, but we want to change. In economic terms, I'm not happy with Islamic finance and Islamic economy. I'm not happy. It could be a first step. But beyond this, are we having an alternative, or are we Islamizing what is the product of the economic order? And by the way, even the Islamists, you know, the difference between the old Islamist and the new Islamist is not very much about accepting democracy. It's one of the points. But it's also about accepting global economic order. They are Islamist and neo-capitalist at the same time. So welcome to the world.